All right, welcome to episode 316 of Hobby Hotline. Good Saturday morning. We missed last week due to some technical stuff, so glad to be back. Our apologies for the 1 week hiatus, but gave us another week to see some of the hobby news and whatnot. So, joining me on this week's episode, to my top right, Mr. Stale Gum, Chris Harris from
How you
Philly.
doing? It's episode 316. So everybody out there, give me a hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I had to be on with the first name of John, so it works out there. And making his Hobby Hotline debut was supposed to be last week, so it's a week late. His rookie appearance, his rookie card, Hobby Hotline, Orlando, a collector's dream. Welcome from Florida.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chris. And great to be on, especially on 316, episode 316.
Yeah, there you go. And
as you can see, I'm in the car because I am out of town. So I tried to find a quiet place.
That's dedication. That is Orlando's dedication and perseverance, and it's you're not we've had people record from the car, so that's not a first. It just shows that you're dedicated and didn't want to miss, and we appreciate that. Couple good mornings before we get into our first topic. Mad City Brew, Mookie Chilson, Abe in Vegas, Foul Ball, Frank Giastella, Ruben, Mike Petty, Just George, and that's it's the ones that said hello, and anyone else out there maybe who didn't type a comment, good morning as well. Let's get into the first topic, right? And this has been a big thing. It's not a new thing, but it's sort of gotten more attention, guys. These card bounties. Recently, that Tops Now triple, the 101, the triple auto. Nate Burns from Grand Slam put $1 million bounty, and at a 500, it becomes almost an auction with these bounties, right? Someone will offer something, someone will come over the top. So someone had previously offered 500,000, and then Nate from Grand Slam offered $1 million. It's nice, I guess, to have that kind of money and be able to spend it and acquire a card of significance. I'm not faulting anyone for that, but obviously some of it is an attention grab. I don't think it's bad. I also don't think it's really good necessarily. I think it is what it is. Your guys' thoughts. I know Chris too. I'm gonna acquiesce to Chris because I know legally, he works in the government. I can't say everything, but but he might have something, to a different layer to this to kind of elaborate on. But go ahead, Chris.
So I wanted to bring this topic up. This is going to be a bit of a preview of my column for Hobby News Daily, which should be dropping any day now. But we've seen a lot of these bounties, and ever since the dawn of the insert card about 30 years ago, the hobby's been skating on this edge of whether or not opening up a pack of cards constitutes something of a raffle or a lottery. And if you notice on the back of a pack wrapper or a box, there's a lot of weaselly legalese that says things like, in fact, I have a 2024 Topps factory set here, and it says in small type, and you'll not find this on just about every Topps wrapper or box. Topps does not in any manner make any representations as to whether its cards will attain any future value. And, that's there to CYA, you know? But now you have these group breakers, online wax dealers, hobby shops, many of whom have direct relationships with Tops, that are offering these almost ridiculous bounties now, where is this even now legal? Because even though Tops is not making any statement as to whether their cards are valuable, someone else is. Someone with a business relationship to Tops is now offering a lot of money for some of these cards. So that's my question to the hobby. Are these bounties now even legal anymore?
Yeah, no, I get it. A couple comments said about it definitely drives the prices up, right? I think we saw how many copies, going back to that Olympic tri card with Durant, Curry, and James, right? We've seen how many of those wound up being sold. Those were print to demand. So the odds of you buying some of those or ordering from
over
Topps,
500,000 of them too. So
yeah, getting that 101 are astronomical or very long odds. But there's a lot of legalities, right? I guess if you get that card, you're glad there's $1 million bounty on it because if you want to sell it, right? But again, you don't have to sell it, and you don't have to sell it to who's offering the bounty. You could put it on an auction house. You could give it to Heritage and see what it goes there, or tell the person offering the bounty, hey, I'm not just going to give it to you. If you want to bid up to $1 million, here's where it's going to be auctioned off. And it's someone who's been in a hobby 40 years. This is
it's gambling. I mean, that's what it
yeah.
is. But I really think, I mean, about the legality of it. I think it has to be legal. I mean, this is an individual that's looking for a card and is willing to put a bounty on it. If I was looking for a particular, let's say I'm looking for a Goodwin Champions, this particular card in a 7, and there's only one out there, I could put a bounty out there and say, hey, I'll pay so much for that card if you've got it, knowing there's one of them out there, any rare card. So I don't know. I think, it's got to be legal, but is it ethical?
Hold on one second.
Go ahead. I'm not an attorney. I'm just thinking, as a personal person, I want that card. I want it for $1 million. If you get it, I'll pay it. That's what it is. Now, I think personally, it's a brilliant move what Fanatics is doing and the other guys are doing. And I think whether it's in conjunction with Jeff Wilson or Golden or
Orlando, this is a comment from Rex that Topps / Fanatics kind of teamed up with Jeff Wilson on the bounty. That I don't like, right? Because it's their product. They almost should stay out of it and let the people who are offering the bounties do it on their own accord, right? Jeff Rex is saying it's a conflict of interest, and I kind of agree. Like Topps has made the card. Topps has made the card. Get out of the way. Let the market, whatever that market is, kind of bear what that card's going to go for. But don't have your hand in the same till you're taking from.
I agree, but as a business move, if it was your business and you're thinking, look at how I could promote my products, because I think it's a brilliant way to promote your products. I mean, look how many people are going out there and how much national attention they've gotten for that 1 of 1. And I don't know if you know, but recently the 1 of 1 gold version, unsigned one, was pulled, and it was pulled by an 8-year-old kid.
I saw that.
And immediately he sent it over to Golden.
Yeah.
So it's a lotto. It's a lottery ticket. But I really think, as far as Fanatics and what Topps is doing, I think it's brilliant marketing for them, because
I won't argue that, Orlando. I think it is, but they would still get that marketing without them like being in conjunction. Like the bounties itself are drawing attention to the product. So I don't want to, if it's up to me and my 2 cents, I don't want to see Tops and Fanatics like set the bounties up or be in conjunction or a co-op with them. Let them. The bounties are going to happen whether Tops wants it to happen or doesn't want it to happen, right? Those
Yeah,
are
but that's the concern, John. When you have a monopoly, basically, other than Panini, I mean, you almost have a monopoly there. They're controlling not only their product distribution, but they're controlling who's breaking it, where they're going to break it, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but that that's what Fanatics has done. They've controlled the market, and it's up to us as consumers to decide what are we going to do. And I think that's what, are we going to go after those type of products and after those hits? But also remember, John, they're going to hurt themselves too, because once that one superfractor gets pulled from that product, the values just shoot right down on those products.
Yeah, comment from Mookie here. Tops wants the bounties to happen. They
Yeah.
take all the profit from the distribution on demand. Tops just made alone on the sale of this card we're talking about $7 million on one card. It's not even a box or a 500 card set or 330 card set. It was one card. Now there are variations in different SPs and super short prints, so it's not necessarily one card, but it's not a full release product like a box like Chris sort of held up or a set like that. And
Yeah.
and I get it. And listen, we talk about it being gambling, whether we like it or not, right? It isn't the hobby in a sense, especially if you're opening wax.
Right.
Because like Chris said, he read the odds on the back. The odds are there, right? It's in the form of gambling. I mean, the only time I think the hobby's not gambling is when you just buy a card outright. You go to a show,
Right.
and somebody can make an argument that that's you're gambling on the future value of that. Will it remain the same, go up, go down? You're taking a chance there, but on a really lesser scale. Let's put it that way. Than buying, a box for 3, 4, or even 5 figures to rip open. And right here's the other thing that makes me nervous. Something I'm sure it's been talked about with great comment from Ruben. Life is a gamble, right? I'm with Jason here too. The consumer will stick. I'm a vintage guy. I don't open too much new wax. I know you're the same, Orlando. So technically, this doesn't directly affect me. But as someone who's been in the hobby a long time and a content creator and a writer, right? We have to. I kind of like and enjoy talking about current topics. But
I'll tell you, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but as
No, go ahead.
a person that was in marketing most of my life, if a marketing tactic works, you will continue that until it stops working. And what they're going to do now is every product that comes out, the big hit is going to have a bounty. You can see it already happening, and it's just going to happen with all the products Fanatics and Tops are going to come out with. Because what do they want? They want people to hurry up, buy it quickly, open the packs, open the boxes as fast as you can, so we can get another product out there. Because once they put a new product out, that old product becomes stale. So they want to open those packs as fast as possible. That's why breaking has become so big, and it's part of their whole marketing plan. And they're going to continue. Every single product that comes out, the big hit is going to have a bounty. Whether it's golden, whoever it is, someone is blowout. Somebody's going to put a bounty on that stuff from now on until the consumer kind of gets tired of it and says, hey, I'm not going to go for those bounties anymore.
Man, I mean, where were these bounties when I was opening triple play back in the day? That's what I want to know. I could have sold my Manly for $2 on a bounty, but obviously I kid. The other thing, and I'm sure it's been discussed, not on this particular show, but I'm sure you heard about the CAT scan deal. I'm not an expert on it, but there are reports that certain products like your Flawless, National Treasures, with a CAT scan, you can see what kind of hits are in there without opening it, right? And now when you
Yeah.
factor the bounties, right? I mean, this is just number one, it's illegal to do that. I obviously I don't condone that. I don't think there's a way to tell. What I like to see is these companies like Tops, Panini, although Panini's going to be losing their licensing here shortly, Orlando, with this CAT scan issue, which we're kind of segueing in off of this, is make these products where that CAT scan can't do
Right.
anything, especially if there's going to be these bounties. And even without the bounties, a
Yeah.
product like Flawless or National Treasures is a very expensive product, right? Do
All they
I
got to
want my
do is
store?
put
Do I want to go to my store and plunk down 4 or 5 figures
no.
with the chance that they've already ran that through a CAT scan machine and know that that box is not that great in relativity
Right.
to some of the others they scan? You
All
know,
they got to do is put like a foil on top and bottom, around all the product.
yeah,
It's not
there's
that
got to
much.
be. I'm sure there's a way.
There's a
Someone said,
way. Yeah.
someone said lead, but lead is going to be expensive and heavy. But there's got to be another
Yeah.
way
There's
to.
there's some type of foil or something they can put there so the CAT scan kind of can't go through it. There has to be a way to do it, and they're if they don't solve that problem, that's gonna hurt their sales because who's gonna want to buy boxes that could be, especially on eBay? That's where they're gonna scan them and they'll put them on eBay.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other thing too is again going back. I don't want, and I don't want to pick on just Tops. I don't want any card manufacturer involved in the bounty itself. Let the bounties fall where they're going to fall. Let the people
Right.
who are going to offer that money. Chris talked about some of the legal ramifications, Orlando. What are the legal ramifications? I don't know if there are any. I don't know if we
Well,
have any lawyers.
I
What
mean,
if
who,
I offered $1 million,
what,
right?
what are you gonna sue for? I mean, that's what
Well,
who's
I
gonna.
just took a law
Someone has to get
contract. I,
on a
I just took
lawsuit,
a,
John. Somebody
but
has to have
there is
damages.
some laws where if let me give you a scenario. I offer $1 million for a card, whatever, it doesn't matter. Said, card X. Orlando, you get card X, however you get it. You open something, pull it, you acquire it, and you say, okay, John, here it is. I want my $1 million. And then I say to you, hey, no, I'm not paying it now, right? There's some legal ground there too with verbal contracts and verbal when you put that out there. Let's even change that scenario. You don't pull it. I'm paying $1 million. The person who got it, and they're not aware of the bounty. And you say to them, "Hey, I'll give you 400 grand." And they say, "Oh man, all right, you pay the 400 grand with the premise. Now I'm going to turn around and sell this to John. He's offering $1 million." And then I say to you, you know what? I changed my mind. And now technically you're out, out in air quotes, right?
Yeah,
400K. There's some legal,
yeah,
I think, which is Chris, well, maybe what Chris was touching on. I know
yeah,
he's not on
yeah. I would
screen
see,
at the moment.
I would see, John, where there's some legal issues if they don't pay the bounty. But if if I go and buy a card from you and sell it for twice the price because you gave me a better, a deal, you didn't know the full value. There's nothing you can do on that. But as far as if somebody does not pay the bounty, I don't think there's anything you can do because there's no legal writing. It's just verbal there.
Yeah,
But I
but
think
there
if
is.
somebody,
I'm not a
right,
lawyer, but
neither
there
am
is.
I. I'm just trying to use common sense, I guess.
Yeah, there is a verbal contract where if you put out there like comments, I'm going to do this for this, and then you don't live up to that, somebody, again, you get into a courtroom, right?
Right.
You can win, you can lose. But I think you have a case. I think there's some legal precedent that if you offer, in a
Hmm.
sense, a service or monetary payment for a specific item, and that person has the item and plans to deliver it, and then you sort of renege on that, I think there's some legal
Yeah.
recourse.
Yeah.
Now,
And if you're a blowout and you put it on your website and it's there at the headline, that also has to be legally binding because you're physically putting it out there.
yeah.
But
And here's the
is it
thing, like I don't have $1 million, right? But what if I just said, "Hey, Nate Burns, right? I'm gonna raise you $1, and I'm gonna be
right?
1,000,001 for that." You know, like it's just some Mike Petty and
Yeah.
who's always great with the comment said he's gonna start a bounty channel, but that's where we're headed. It's gonna be competitive on a bounty with bounties. Like people are gonna
Yeah.
and maybe it even created some friction and animosity and remorse, or someone sells it for a bounty and someone else says, hey, I would have gave that, or you didn't see my
Right.
bounty. It's just such a new a fairly new part of the hobby terrain like we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And again,
Well,
I,
who knew, John? Who knew that you were going to be pulling $1 million cards out of packs? You know, before when we pulled cards, even Jose Canseco 86, they weren't worth that much money. You're not talking, the 5-6 figure cards. And I think that is what's driving all this bounty stuff. Is it good or bad for the hobby? I think it's good and bad. I mean, that's
yeah.
the way I'm looking at it. It's
Yeah, no,
good
I agree. I
for the
agree.
hobby
Obviously, it
because it
draws.
builds the hobby.
Yeah,
Bad the way that it's building the hobby. If you can get
and
that.
listen, I always look at the kids, and I've been told like sometimes you do that too much, John. But I started as a 7-year-old kid. Whenever you're a kid and you like spend your whole, you spend $100 going back to this tops now, right? Hey, maybe I'll get this 101 and I'll sell it for $1 million, right? That's how kids' minds work. That's how adult minds work, right? So you're that kid who spends his whole $100 he saved up for who knows how long. You get your Tops Now cards, you rip them open. That 101's not in there, and it becomes sort of a bad experience, right?
Right.
You feel like it's like opening up the Willy Wonka bar, right? Looking for the golden ticket, and it's not in there, and all you're left with is like, hey, I'm just a bunch of chocolate, right? And
Well, overall, that's my problem with boxes and breaking. I mean, a kid will spend a couple $100 on a box, and lucky if they pull $30 worth of cards. So I
yeah,
think overall, that's the bigger problem. I think with the hobby. I think that if you could get a decent return by opening boxes, even if you lose half your money, but most of the time you lose 80% of it.
oh
So
yeah,
I think if they would put more hits in the products and make it a little bit easier to get hits or better buy, I think that would help the hobby and help the kids. But you know what? They're going to produce more, they're going to print more as much as they can. And unfortunately, I think we're going down the junk wax era route.
yeah. I mean, I don't open that much wax anymore, if at all. I mean, I do dabble a little bit, but nothing like I used to. So again, it doesn't affect. But here's the other thing with the bounties too. We've heard reports, right, and allegations that Tops is feeding hot boxes to breakers and certain people that they're aware of. Now, obviously, they've denied this, Orlando. They're not saying
Well,
they're like, we
obviously, they're going
know.
to deny.
Yeah, it's all. But let's just operate on the hypothetical that is true, that they do
Yeah.
know. Right now, this bounties. How do we know they're not feeding backyard breaks or Dave and Adams a box that they know that a bounty card's in?
Mm-hmm.
So the bounties, that person can reap the rewards, right?
Yeah.
And what if they buy a lot from Tops? Like, hey, you
Yeah.
spend hundreds of $1,000s with us. Here, we're gonna you scratched our back, we're gonna scratch yours. It's in here.
Mm-hmm.
Sell it for the bounty, and boom, you're golden, right?
Yeah.
You know
I
how
mean,
that comes into
getting
play if you
how
believe that.
I mean, if you want to go that far, I mean, some people believe that they're giving boxes to some certain celebrities or baseball players to pull out their own cards, signed cards, things like that. I mean, who knows what they're doing? You know, I'm just thinking that they want to pull the big hits from their fanatics breakers. You know, that's what I'm thinking. And, you know, that's a concern if they're doing any of that. But you can't prove that. How are you going to ever prove something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm back.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You're back.
Had a little emergency there.
We're
My
kind of.
mom called.
Okay. Is she
All
okay?
right.
Yeah. No big deal.
All right. Hey, you know, Chris, we're coming to the tail end of this particular topic.
Yeah.
And anything I talked about the legal. You mentioned the legalese. I brought up while you were gone. Let's say I offer $1 million bounty. You acquire the card, pull the card, however you obtain it, and you say, okay, John, I'm ready for my $1 million. Here's the card you're paying $1 million for. And then I say, oh, never mind, I changed my mind. You know, there's some legal there. There's
No, that's fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think when you advertise that you're paid, especially for a particular card, if you just say, hey, I'm paying $1,000 for, you know, a really decent looking Sandy Koufax rookie, you know, raw.
That's one thing. That's different though. We're talking.
Yeah.
I'm talking about new cards,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
new packs, new products where you have to spend money to buy a pack or a card off a website, and someone else puts a bounty out, and that someone else has a direct relationship with the company that issued it.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Yep.
And another problem is, and this is kind of tangentially related to this. You know, I read the legalese on the back of this Topps complete set. And if you look at Topps' social media accounts lately, it's just, look at this one of one that was just pulled. Look at Ellie De La Cruz. He didn't know how much his card was worth, but you could pull a $500,000 card too.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of skating on that thin ice of, you know, saying that your cards won't hold any value, but then using the value of those cards to promote your product. I don't think that's right. So,
yeah, talking out of both sides of your mouth.
I agree with that.
But
and it's funny that all of this seems to have started to happen when a certain guy in Jacksonville with a white party every 4th of July got involved in the hobby.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, he's a master marketeer. Let's
Yeah.
give credit where credit's due. I'm not a huge fan of the person, but he's smart. He knows what he's doing, and he's marketing.
He's like I said before, a brilliant marketer. Not only marketing the product, but he markets himself with those white parties and things like that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's move on to our next topic, which, you know, is not controversial. I mean, maybe a little bit, right? Backdating products. COVID happened. Stuff was delayed. Shipping containers were stuck on vessels and shipping units not to be delivered. So, for example, Upper Deck the Cup, one of their high-end Upper Deck's high-end hockey releases, recently just came out. But the 2022/2023 Upper Deck the Cup, and we're just 3 months away from 2025, and we have a 2022/23 product coming out. It's just weird to me that could even happen. I get it. They're not going to not do it, guys, because there's too much. They lose too much money. They paid for these licensing. They're not going to not release a product. Very rarely. They do sometimes cancel a product, but it's pretty rare. It's just weird that you're almost in 2025 and you could be potentially opening a box that's new that says 2022, 23 on it. Well, thoughts on that?
Poor
Well, what's to
planning.
say that they won't?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
great. Well, again, poor planning. Not having the printing time beforehand, things like that. When you're in the printing business, it takes a lot of time and effort to pull a product out, from the design work to getting everything done and all of that. That takes months and months and months just to get it all done, every card done, and get it ready to go to press. And then you don't have printing capacity to do it. I mean, that's what the issue really comes down to. Whether it's that Fanatics has controlled the printing, because there's only a few printers in this country that can print the cards. It's not like you can just find a new printer. And these are, multi-million-dollar printing plants. So as a card manufacturer, if you don't have that printing time locked in, whether you need 2 weeks or a month to print that product, if you don't have that ahead of time, I mean, it's just ridiculous that you go through all that work to get it done, and then all of a sudden it's ready to print. You got to wait. You can't print it. There's other products, newer product being printed ahead of your product. Now, whether that's something that Fanatics has done to hurt them or whatever, I don't know. It could be. But I think it's just very poor management on their part, not making sure that product comes to market on time. I mean, that's your job. Get the product done and to market on time. And if you can't do it, forget it. It's like having a gallon of milk that's outdated. It's ridiculous. So that's my rant on that.
Yeah.
Well,
Chris.
I understand that Upper Deck the Cup is a product that takes a very, 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 very long time for them to develop. And I understand that they're kind of, they're still backdated on that due to COVID from years ago. But sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and just say, we're not going to release the cup this year, or this year's cup is actually going to be dated 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
And skip a year.
Yeah.
The reason why I brought this issue up is because in the last month or so, Topps has released 2 football products, Composite and Motif. I think Motif comes out this week, or may have been out already. I don't know. Neither one is licensed by the NFL, and neither one is licensed by the Players Association, although they did sign those 4 quarterbacks from last year's draft class, CJ, Anthony Richardson, those guys. And here we are. Week 1 of the NFL season is in the books. And they have the audacity to call this a 2023 product. I mean, even if this were fully licensed, you're not fooling anybody, dude. Just call it a 2024 product.
Right.
Yeah, the CJ Stroud got a rookie logo on it. He's in his what?
Which is not nobody's going to take that card as seriously as a rookie, or should. Oh, and Panini's also releasing 2023 football around. I think they just released Select, which
football products, like many in the chat room have pointed out, are a year behind. A year behind, I get, but like we're really in obviously the post COVID. I know people are still getting it, but we're not in the pandemic portion. I'd like to see, again, it's going to cost them money, but they're making plenty of money, right? I'd like to see these card manufacturers be like Orlando kind of hinted at, right? Have their own printing facilities and be directly responsible for getting it done, right? Put the onus back on the company themselves rather than a third-party printing company these printing companies, which is odd, is printing rival company stuff sometimes probably at the same time or in different shifts, right?
Right.
Tops and Panini are being printed in the same four walls
The
at
same
different
facilities.
points of
Yeah,
the
they are.
day. That's crazy to me. And like you said, there's reports that Fanatics has finagled stuff and screwed Panini, for a lack of a better way of saying it, right? Where they've had to cancel a football product 3-4 times because they can't get it to press. That if you're printing your own products, that wouldn't happen, or it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Again, that would be investing money into a plant, a building, but they're also paying that company who knows how much, probably handsomely. So build your own, and especially
Yeah.
in Fanatics case, man, they have the cash.
That's the problem. That Fanatics has the cash and money talks. So if Fanatics goes to one of these printers and say, "Hey, we'll give you 30% more, their product to the side and print ours first."
Well,
I mean,
didn't Fanatics just buy that printing press outside
I
of
don't know if they,
Dallas?
bought it. I know that they were trying to buy it, but I'm not sure if they actually bought it yet. I know they made them an offer, but maybe we can look that up. Somebody can figure that out.
No,
I'm not
I
sure.
think
Yeah,
they
I
did.
hope I hope Fanatics winds up getting their own full time
Yeah.
printing facility. I know Panini's about to lose a good percentage of their licensing, but then let them do what they're going to do with it, where there's no conflict of interest there, where both companies and products are getting printed in the same facility, right? Should eliminate that.
Yeah.
Let Panini survive in its own small way with the
Yeah.
NIL and whatever products that they're going to be able to make.
Well, I mean, Panini's more of an international company, doing a lot of soccer stuff
Yeah,
out there. Maybe they could find some printers out in Europe because they print a lot of their stickers and all that stuff out
yeah,
there.
but then that if it's a product that's got to come to the States, then
Yeah,
you
that's
got
true. They
that,
got to ship it back, and yeah,
and that's got to go overseas, and we
yeah,
all
that's
hear the
true.
horror stories
Yeah,
about cargo ships kind of stuck or running into bridges in Danny's hometown of Baltimore and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's crazy, And with this cup, right? I think it was Abel in Vegas made a comment, right? Here, you got double rookie cards now to catch up. It's sort of an advantage and disadvantage, right? You kind of know ahead of time what rookie performed well and what rookie didn't. And it's also a disadvantage because for a store, right, that would have had that product maybe on time, where they could have sold some of those rookie cards of prospects before people kind of the verdict was in or out on them. Right now, that chance may be
yeah,
not there like it would be on a normal time schedule, or maybe make a product. Chris said about just call it 2025. Maybe make it a bigger set.
yeah.
Maybe
I mean,
make the previous cards almost like parallels or a subset of
you could do what, series one and then series two or something like that. I mean, there's got to be a way to figure that out. But to release a 3-year-old product, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, 1 year doesn't bother me too much,
Right.
but when you're in almost 2025,
Yeah.
opening a product that's labeled 2022, 2023, and what's going to happen now? When's the 2023-24 cup come out? When's
Yeah.
the 24-25 cup come out? Like, how close together are they? Always going to be like 3 years, but 2.5 years behind?
Yeah.
Like, when do we catch up and get products like we used to be accustomed to, right?
Right.
And so I don't know. Not a big fan of backdating. I get why, but we're also a few years out from those bad pandemic year and a half, 2 years, right?
Yeah. There shouldn't be any more delays. We're pretty much past all that.
Yeah. All right. This is a topic you brought to. It's a hot button topic, Orlando, but it's
Oh,
a
my topic. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Grading viewed as a scam. We got about 20-25 minutes left. We'll probably close with this. I know this will get a lot of comments in the chat room. I'm a bulk subber for SGC. I buy SGC and PSA graded cards. I sub the PSA as well as SGC. You know, in the 90s when I had my store, I thought grading was a money grab and I didn't do it. It still is probably a money grab. I don't think that maybe has changed, but obviously I partake in it on both sides, right? As a subber, as a buyer of cards, as a seller of graded cards. I buy raw cards too. It's not like it's just graded, you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, obviously the grading itself is subjective. We've seen these companies, you know, it seems like every few weeks something comes out. They graded something as authentic that turns out not to
Yeah.
be, or vice versa. You know, we've had people who say, "Hey, I pulled this card out of a pack," and they're saying it doesn't meet minimum size. It works kind of both ways. I had a third year Michael Jordan that that I subbed probably 2 years ago. Came back as minimum size not met. I know I pulled it out of a pack. I sent it back. I took another flyer, sent it back, and it got graded an 8. Right,
Yeah.
same
Right.
company.
Right. I think
So
and that those
yeah,
are
go ahead.
those are my issues. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that it's a total scam. I think it's more of a necessary evil. I'll call it a necessary evil because
Yep,
we need grading. The
yep,
problem is that we need to fix grading. And you know, when you have a Michael Jordan card that was in a it recently just happened this week in a the star it was one of the star rookies. It came out on a Beckett authentic, right? The guy buys it in an authentic holder, submits it to PSA, and it comes back a 7. You know, and you had Greg from Midlife go submit some PSA cards, and they all came out different grades in the SGC than in PSA. So the issue I think is that grading companies, they're the reason they're not as consistent because when a grader looks at a card, they're looking at the card for 2-3 minutes, not even that in some cases, 2 minutes, it's gone, it's over with, you know. So it's that one person's opinion. And I've been to grading school. I've seen how they grade the cards, and you just can't spend time on every single card. So you make a guess at it and you move on. And the graders really, in my opinion, need to have at minimum 2 people or 3 look at the card. I mean, we're paying quite a bit of money, especially PSA, especially some of the higher end cards. You know, you may be paying hundreds of dollars to get a card graded, and you an opinion from one guy, one grader. You know, I want 2-3 people to look at that card. If they don't agree on the grade, then get together and agree on the grade. You know, so whenever you can get a card and resubmit it and get a different grade on it, that's an issue in my opinion. You know, and you know, that's why I always say, you know, I'm looking for the card, I'm buying the card, not the grade. And for me, I look for a card that looks like a 6 in a 4 holder. You know, that's the card I'm looking for. But why don't these graders really grade themselves? Have a second person check that, double check it just in case. You know, it's authentic. Let me pass it over to this guy. Hey, is this really an authentic card, or can this be graded? And they don't do that right now. It's one person's opinion, and that's it. You resend it, you get a second grader's opinion. So I think that's the issue as far as how I see it. Is it a scam? I mean, it's not necessarily a scam because they tell you, hey, it's an opinion. That's what grading
yeah,
is.
it's
But
subjective.
we as the person that gets the card assumes that, hey, it's a 5 and it's a 5. It has to be a 5 because that's what the label says. But in many cases, it may not be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. Go.
Well, I'm just going to say, you know, grading is important for authenticity to authenticate. When you get into the numerical grade itself, like you said, Orlando, it's subjective of that grader, right? I will say this in a little bit of a defense of the grading card companies. In many cases, more than one grader does look at the card.
Yeah.
Not all the time. I'm not going to say that as a blanket statement, but probably of cards of significance, whatever you wanted to
Yeah, if it's
call.
very high value, they will have two people look at it in many cases.
Yeah.
But the regular cards you and I submit that are worth a few $100s, one person's gonna look at that.
Yeah, and then you're at the mercy of that he or she that day of what they believe that card is. Maybe what you're saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Orlando. You almost want like a guarantee that more than one person is looking at it and then come to a consensus grade, almost like a jury. Let's
Yeah,
get to a final verdict
I
here.
want to get my money's worth. I want someone to really get a good look at that card, not a 1-2 minute look. I want somebody or a couple people, 2-3 people. I would like, pass it down and say, hey, give this one a grade, give this one a grade, give this one a grade. To have 3 people do it, they can do it in 5 minutes. Just pass that card down the row, because when I went to the grading school, you sit on a big long table and they're all grading right there. Pass the card down. Hey, you grade it, you grade it, you grade it. Check the notes and come up with a consensus. One grades it a 4, one grades it a 6, one grades it a 5. Okay, it's like a 5. We'll give it a 5.
I want to comment. I want to comment to Five Ball, who I love. He's a good
Okay.
guy. He speaks his mind. He doesn't mince words. That's a good thing most of the time. He's got the first part right? SGC sponsors Sports Card Nation. They don't sponsor Hobby Hotline. They sponsor Card Mentions. If you listen to my show, you've heard me on multiple occasions say not great things sometimes about SGC, to the point where Peter's called me up and we've had a conversation. So I will speak my mind. That card I talked about, the Jordan, was SGC. I talked about it on my show. I've been critical of them at different times on my show. I don't want to make the whole rest of the episode.
No.
I just wanted to comment to that comment that I like SGC. So but do everything they do is right? No, and I've never said as such. And I've went on the air and kind of, I don't want to say put them on blast, but have been critical of them on the air. So I don't, that sponsorship doesn't preclude me from my opinion. Is where I'm going with this, and I've given it on more than one occasion. And it's not all roses and daisies all the time. So
yeah, I mean,
right.
I agree, and I prefer SGC. I think they're more accurate. One of the problems I think with PSA is during the COVID, they hired so many graders, and I mean hundreds and hundreds of graders, and those graders, they're learning on the job. So that's where you have a lot of issues sometimes. And I think SGC has a lot more veteran graders, even though they did hire a lot of graders, but they just don't have as many, and they do have a lot more veteran graders. So I think they're a little more accurate. I mean, look, I agree with the grades most of the time, but every once in a while you get a card and you look at it and say, how the hell did they give this grade? And those are the ones I'll resubmit, and yeah, you'll get a better grade in many instances.
Yeah, and how many times have we seen something graded a 10 and you look at the card, even in a picture, not even in person, and you see a corner like, no way, that's a 10, right? Sometimes you get a card back, right? If you grade or you buy a card, you don't even have to get it back, and it's moving in the case, right? You can hear it, see it, right? So what if that's a 10 and that thing gets shaken in travel and the corner gets dinged, right?
Yeah.
That I don't like. Like, get that where that card doesn't move once it's encased, right?
Yeah.
That's an issue.
Well, that's another issue that PSA needs to fix. They do that a lot, and they put things in some holders that are sometimes bigger than they need to be, and I just think they all need all of them. SGC does the same thing. They'll put your card in a huge holder. Sometimes they just need to be consistent. Sometimes you'll get the same card, maybe it's a little oversized, but same card in different size holders, and that's crazy too. But I think, like I said, you need grading. I think that's really the way that the market has been developed at this point. The only way you can really get your money out of selling a card is to have a grade on it, because the raw, you're never going to get the really price that you should get in most cases.
Comment. A comment from Bill. There's a CT scanning for grading. Dylan mentions AI.
Yeah,
he'd like to see AI and take the subjective nature out. I'm not
I would love to
opposed
see
to.
that. I don't think that.
No, well, here's what I'll say. I don't want 100% AI. I don't.
No,
I'm
not
not
100%.
against. I'm not against AI, but I still want the human element
Yes.
involved in that in some capacity, because we all know computers glitch as well,
Hmm.
right? That's not foolproof as well. I got a Chromebook I use at work that I want to throw to the window sometimes because it glitches, right?
Yeah.
It's not the end all be all, right? Am I opposed to AI? It's already being used. Most of the
Yeah.
companies are using AI when you send your cards in to identify them. So it's already what
Hmm.
Dylan is saying, and many others are saying, is they want the AI to actually grade the card itself.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that, but I still want, how you get your underwear and it says inspected by inspector number 12. I don't care if AI does the initial grade. I still want a human to kind of sign off. Yes, it's an 8. Yes, it's a 7. Yes, it's a 10, and just verify the computer's work. Um, and so I don't want it to be 100% AI, but if it's both working in unison or together,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that, and that might be the answer. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're doing it right now. Even PSA, they bought that company, Gemma, and they do some AI before the card goes to the grader. They kind of scan it and they see some of the defects on it. But again, the human eye, they pass it on somebody else and then they look at it again because even though it has certain defects, eye appeal is still kind of the main thing when you're dealing with the grade, and a human can determine that. The problem with the AI, complete AI, is that for new cards, it's fine. They can do it just like Tag is doing it right now. But when you talk to Jeremy Lee and you ask him how come they can't do the vintage, it's a whole new animal because every vintage card is so unique. Everyone is different than all the other ones, and the machine just has to learn how to grade those. And
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult to teach something like that versus a brand new card out of the pack that, they may have a scratch on it, but they don't have like, I don't know, whatever little minor things that, all the stuff that the old cards have.
Yeah, what you might see with Tag, like they're trying to get this AI thing going. What eventually might happen, you might see one of these bigger companies, PSA, SGC, someone else, CG, eventually buy them and try to integrate some of what they've done, right? Potentially.
Yeah.
That might be something you see down the line. Chris,
Yeah.
you haven't weighed in yet on this. Let's hear from you
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah, I think we all need to understand that, yes, grading is subjective, not objective. You're paying for a man's opinion. Um, I do believe that that's the way Beckett grades cards is that they're graded by two different people. And if there's a discrepancy between the two, it goes to a senior grader to break the tie. So I don't know if they do that anymore, but that they used to. What else did I want to say? Yeah, it's if you're going to send the same card to a company and they grade it authentic, but don't give it a number, and then you send it to someone else and they do grade it, you have to remember these two, all the different grading companies have different rubrics for their grading. So a card that may grade a 7 with one company may grade a 6.5 with another. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's never
that's a
going to
great
change.
point.
Really, the only way that'll change is again with that AI, Chris, right? And even
even with
with
the
that,
AI, I mean, it all depends on each company's rubric.
yeah,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Chris.
a card that's off center, I don't know, 55-45 might be eligible for a 10 with one company, but might only get a 9.5 with another. So unless the grades become standardized, I think you're going to
Right.
have that kind of problem,
Yeah. The grading.
which I don't ever see happening.
Yeah, Yeah, he's completely right. I mean, every company has different grading scales, different grading techs, And as you know, SGC is a little bit more tolerant as far as the size of the vintage cards. They know that back in the 50s and 60s, some of the cards were cut a little short, so they will grade some that PSA will say no, we won't. And the same thing with centering. They're a little more, PSA actually is a little bit more off on centering sometimes. They'll give a 7 that is pretty off centered, So, each one has different tolerances. And yeah, you're right. They don't all grade the same on the same scales. I mean, basically, yes, but there's always some little nuances between all the companies.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why Beckett's doing so poorly right now, is because their standard for a 10 is really high. So a lot of the new collectors that have come in, they've been told you got to get a 10. It's a lot tougher to get a 10 from BGS than it is from PSA, which doesn't even have a 9.5 grade. And a lot of the cards that I think would grade a PSA 9.5, if it existed, they just bump it up to 10. So,
yeah, listen, grading is not going to go. I'm not preaching to the choir, including grading's not going away.
No.
We could talk about this probably for the next 50 years. I don't know how much is
we're
going
going to talk about it for the next 50 years.
Right.
But here's the thing. Some people don't grade, right? And that's your prerogative. That's your choice, right, Chris, right? You can buy and deal in just raw cards. You can buy raw cards. You can sell raw cards. I do both. I do graded and
So
raw.
do I, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of my cards are raw.
Yeah. So it's I guess it's a highly acquired taste. A lot of people are doing it. So it's a taste people like for the most part. It's got its warts, right? I think we all know that. It's got its warts. That's not going to go away. Every week something else is brought up or something else happens that shines the negative light onto the grading niche. That's just going to be sort of par for the course. You hope it doesn't happen, but it's gonna. It's one of those deals, right? It's kind of is what it is until someone figures out tags trying with the AI. I don't know how well or not well they're doing, but it's AI has not taken, has not made a major impact overall. I think the AI is more like just on the intake of the cards, identifying them and getting them into the system. It hasn't really taken over the actual grading of, like you said, Orlando. AI can't grade vintage cards. Right now it's too difficult. Will that always be the case?
No.
I don't know. I'm not an AI expert. I don't know if we have. I'm sure there are AI experts. I'm not one of them. I don't think any of us in here are, or in the chat room. But as someone who likes buying, selling, and and collecting graded cards, I hope it eventually we don't have to have these conversations all the time. They're not good. It paints a negative light on the space, right, on the grading space. And I hope someday we some of these problems aren't problems anymore. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year, and if it is solved, who knows how long it would take, right? If you don't like it, I get it. I didn't like grading at first, and I kind of did a 180 and changed my mind.
Most collectors didn't like grading at first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't like
it really wasn't until eBay
either.
came along that that grading found its niche in the hobby.
Yeah,
that's right. It was with eBay because that's where people had confidence that the grade you're saying is the accurate grade, and they, it's tough to sell a raw card. Other than Greg Morris, which grades pretty accurately. If you're going to buy a raw card on eBay, you can't go with what the grade that the seller is saying.
And let's not forget too, grading is not just even sports cards. The coins are graded. We're seeing video games. We're seeing VHS tapes.
Everything.
if it's a
books,
collectible,
record
there's a
albums,
company.
casino chips.
Yep, there's a company
Currency.
Funko Pops.
Yeah, they're grading fun. So everything is graded, and so it's just par for the course of the collectibles industry. And who knew like VHS tapes back in the day would have a market, right? We ripped them open, put them in our VCR. Had I known some things, I might have just kept them sealed. Chances are, most of the time when we watched the VHS movie, we had already seen the movie anyway. We wanted to see it again, right? We should have just kept that thing sealed for grading 20 years, 30 years later and made a mint, so to speak. But who knew, right? We didn't know. Yeah. So grading's not going away. It just might not be your thing. And, it is my thing, but I agree. There's warts to it. We have to live with them. We have maybe see how many of those warts can be solved, if any, and that's just where we're at. So
that's exactly where we're at. Just to fix the little issues that we have, which it really can fix that.
Yeah, like like the things that some of the things I brought up, like a card moving in the case. Yeah. Make a case where that thing doesn't move, right? And ding a corner and that sort of thing. So that's stuff we can fix. Don't grade a card with a ding corner a 10 and then have it posted on social media for the world to see. So those are things that you can try to avoid if possible. Well, guys, we're up against the hour, a couple minutes over. Glad to be back this week. Glad to have you'll be seeing Orlando, as regular rotation on the show. Maybe from his car, maybe not. We'll see.
It won't be from my car next time. It'll be from my house.
We'll take it either way. Listen, everybody. Thanks everyone in the chat. Thanks everyone who downloads the show. Maybe doesn't listen live, but listens after the fact. We appreciate everyone as well. So for Orlando, for Chris, go ahead, Chris, play us out.
Keep on rocking in the free world, folks.